Welcome everyone to episode 446 of Just Joshing. I'm your host Joshua Pantallarusco. I write stuff in podcast too, and we're just going to continue our conversation with Michael Oden, and we're just going to get right into it right now. So without further ado, let's continue where we left off, and we'll talk a little bit more afterwards, alright? Alright.
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
And honestly, my favorite part, so this is the thing. Here's when I hated Tom King in Batman, when he didn't have a Catwoman story. Because his dynamic with Batman and Catwoman, I thought, was the best thing about his entire run, bar none. Initially,
I'd agree with you. What it devolved to after issue 50 was trash.
No. Again, I said up to 50. Up to 50. I said that.
That's why I said I would agree with you up until 50, and then after the runaway bride thing. And it makes me really mad because he's about to bring in Andrea Beaumont into canon, which is something I've prayed for years.
Yep.
And now it's happening, and it's happening under the most inconsistent person ever. And
yeah. I know.
I swear to God, if he fucks up on
Just remember, you have your own version of the character in its own separate pocket universe. If it doesn't work out, you still have that. But going back to what I was actually saying.
Yeah, I know. It's just I have been thinking literally. Andrea is Mask of Phantasm is the Citizen Kane of Batman stories. Full stop. Mm-hmm. It is a perfect story, and it is a unique take on origins that completely redefines how you look at Batman. And the concept of Andrea Beaumont and the Phantasm is so good, and it's been something I've been telling people for years.
It's fantastic.
Make Andrea canon. They need to her being the first adult relationship of Bruce Wayne and being the person that almost makes him give up being Batman is the most perfect thing on the face of the planet. And the fact that she becomes this brilliant villain, it's just you can't.
It's what Talia could have been if a few decisions.
100%. I think the reason why Andrea didn't make it in until now is because they were trying to make Talia.
Because Talia very easily could have been that. The problem, here's the problem with I do think Batman's due for a reimagining. Just because number one, I'm gonna let you finish that, but I don't think reimagining is the right idea. No. What I mean by that is, I think he's hit a very. Batman has become Deadpool. What Deadpool was about 10 years ago, which was he's been saturated to such an nth degree. His properties have been pushed to an nth degree that I think we've come to a very interesting point in that you have to do something different with the character, or what's going to eventually end up happening is you're going to Batman will always appeal to a certain demographic, but the reality of the situation is. There's so many of all the DC books. Marvel's always had this issue with the X-Men, which is why they always had this issue with the X-Men. DC's is now Batman. There's so many books featuring the same kind of Batman story by and large that I think we're coming to a point. It may not be right this minute, but in a year or two, right, we're gonna have to look at the reality of the fact that Batman needs to be at least different kinds of stories need to be told with him, and I think going back to what I'm thinking, like in terms of like you don't necessarily have to. The cool thing about Batman as a character is he's easily the most elastic character in DC. You can literally put him in any setting and he will work. It doesn't matter. But I do think that you need to start looking in terms of, okay, where do we go with, where we need to go somewhere different for at least a little while. If we don't, what's going to end up happening is, yeah, he's always going to sell but it's going to get harder and harder and harder for people to get into this, and I'm kind of at that point because Deadpool like did hit like, yeah, you can still Deadpool still's made, doesn't sell anywhere near as well, and yeah, Deadpool isn't quite as elastic as Batman. I'll grant you that, but there's a point where there's too much of a good thing, and I think he's hit that point.
This is my whole thing. I don't think reimagining is the problem. This is what honestly needs to be done. Is that Stan Lee once made a very big statement that from a business side is true and makes sense, but from a narrative side has hurt the industry and is the reason why we are having a lot of issues with same stories being ultimately recycled. And the problem is that Stan Lee once said there are no third acts in comic books. And that needs to change.
Yeah.
Full stop.
In North America.
What needs to happen is that the old bastion of heroes, Marvel, DC, need to be killed off or retired. There needs to be a final story for them to get closure and move on and push in a new era of heroes and new thought that don't necessarily have anything to do with the old. And then what you do is, for those fans of Batman, for those fans of Superman, then you can do effectively all-star style stories.
Yeah.
Like, you want to know what I would kill for? I would kill for Paul Dini and, what's his name, Doc Shaner, to do a Captain Marvel series that takes place in Fawcett City instead of Philadelphia, and is just a love letter to all the silly Golden Age shenanigans, Golden and Silver Age shenanigans the character did, you know, and actually utilized his powers, and like it, because I love the Shazam movie and everything, but one of my biggest problems with it is that what's the first freaking power in the acronym of Shazam? Wisdom of Solomon. Not necessarily maturity. Understand, yes, it should feel like big with superpowers. However, when you have a scene where when the older sister is like upset about getting into the college and having to leave home, and he has nothing to say about it and comes off as kind of an immature jerk, it's one of those things where that's one of those situations where Wisdom of Solomon should have come. And you can even make a joke about it. We're like, man, I never realized I could be that insightful.
Yeah.
Maybe if I use that to do my homework from time to time? That's the whole thing.
Or even you can turn that into a bit of a joke, whereas, he sucks at, let's say he just sucks at math. It's like, why can't I use this to solve an equation? Why can't I use this? Right?
Exactly. No, that's the whole thing, is that it's like, I would love for these characters to go back and do stories that are more towards their roots. Have a Batman title that takes place in 1930s Gotham, and it feels kind of like I know that that's kind of what they're doing with the Batman the Animated Series continuation, but that version of Gotham kind of feels like you're not really sure if it's present day or if it's in the 30s or heavy. But straight up, bring them back to the 30s. Bring them back to these old detective noir things, because the big thing that you also have in the 30s is it's before a lot of modern forensics, and so you really get to play with world's creative detectives. Everything is a puzzle.
Yeah,
everything requires legwork.
Yeah.
And so you could do these interesting stories that you don't have to worry about saying, oh, well, this is in continuity or this isn't, because it doesn't matter. Bruce Wayne's not Batman anymore, whether it's because he's dead or whether it's because he can't, whether it's hell, you had the Beyond universe, right? Terry McGinnis was such a phenomenal character.
Oh, he's fantastic.
That everyone liked.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's my favorite. Actually,
Terry's a great character, and his dynamics with the adult versions of Dick, Barbara. You could have done a whole thing where Jason Todd comes back in the Beyond universe, and it is opinions. I know that they brought Damian back in the comics recently for Beyond, and I'm sure that was fun. But Terry is And you know, for a while, their new Batman Beyond book was one of their best sellers.
Yeah, no, it's also their simplest Batman book, in the sense that you can just literally get, all you need is that Batman book, and you get your Terry is enough like Bruce that you feel like you got a Batman story, but yet he feels different enough. And
you know, I need to catch up. I read the first issues of Tinian's run, and Tinian's run on Batman is great. Mm-hmm. But like again, how many more times are we going to go into the thing with the Joker?
Well, here's the thing, right? And here's the thing, right? There's the 70s, the 80s. So they did this about 12 years ago. They're like each kind of characters, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? These one-shot specials. They could do that quarterly every year, like a different era of story every year. Because
100%, and bring in legends to do it.
Yeah, bring in.
Have it be, instead of like your standard 25 to 32 page floppy. Have them come back and do like a
60 to 100 pager
mini series that's like 40 to 50 pages each. You charge $11, and I'll tell you what, people are what. Look, I work indie, right? My Elysium Fields Pyramid Gambit is the base copy of the book is $20. People are willing to pay for that.
Oh yeah.
If they know that they are going to get the quality storytelling and the page count, and so Elysium Fields Pyramid Gambit has no ads in it, and the story is at 54 pages.
Yeah, I'd pay that.
These are at a point where you have 20 to 30 pages of story, and about not even a story, around 20, 30 pages in a book, and about 4 or 5 of those pages are advertisements.
Yeah.
So you're really paying $4 for maybe 12 to 15 pages of story.
Yeah, unless
that's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, no. That's the. Yeah, I'm really, really torn, because like I'm literally down to like right now 3 books monthlies. I'm a big star. And honestly, here's where they are: Green Lantern, Far Sector. Far Sector is amazing, by the way, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm a Ninja Turtle.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I hear, is fantastic.
It has been. I never thought it would be my longest running book. When I started it, like I pick up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Kevin Eastman's doing this. I'm in. That was literally my whole decision. But I don't care how long this lasts. Tom Waltz was an incredibly Tom Waltz is a very underrated writer. I
was kicking myself because I bought my best friend a special variant of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 100. And I went and I picked it up in the store and everything, and I held it in my hand. I was like, this is such a good quality book. And I looked at them like, there isn't any chance that you have another one of these, is there?
Nope.
And they went, nah. Dude, damn it. And I went, yeah, I figured. Okay.
Yeah, no. Like, honestly, if you want my opinion, what has been the best superhero book the last 6 years, the best pure superhero book, it is that book. Yeah, it's not technically a superhero book. But it is so true to its concept. Right?
In the past 6 years, there were a few books that came out that really, and I can count them all in one hand. There were very few books that came out in the last 6 years that really just absolutely wowed me. I mean, you had DC Rebirth Superman was one of them.
Yep.
That entire run was just utterly fantastic. Chip Zdarsky's Spider-Man life story is a masterpiece. And it goes back and forth with Spider-Man Blue is my number one.
I love him. I love Immortal Hulk. I love Immortal Hulk. I really enjoy.
I hear that. I've never been a huge Hulk fan, but every
no. Okay, I've known Al. Okay, so I read Al Ewing when he did Jennifer Blood. Okay, when back. This is a Dynamite book. He had to follow Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis did the first 6 issues, and then Al took over. And Al's run is really good. It's better than Garth's. Like, it was better than Garth's. And I read him, like, this guy's going to be really good. Because he's dark, but he's also got a really nice, a bizarrely human touch to what he does, too. So, when I saw Immortal Hulk come out, it's like, I read it because I was like, you know what? I tried Amada Show's Hulk. It's like, it's not quite for me. The Immortal Hulk's like, wait, Al Ewing? Okay. Wow, it blew my Okay, so my favorite issue in that whole run I reviewed it was issue 8. Hulk is. What if Hulk was an EC Comics monster, like a purely EC Comics unbelievable monster that never dies, cannot be killed.
No, I've heard really good things about the.
Yeah, no, it was Marvel's when Marvel was going through its. There was a period there where Marvel was just making me sad on every level, and that.
They're still making me sad on every.
Well, I'm not quite
the only book that Marvel has on its slate that's coming out here. I don't know if it's coming out soon or if it's already out. Is they got Christopher J. Priest to do a U.S. Agent series, and
so
that looks fantastic.
I enjoyed Teenie Howard's Excalibur, and I enjoyed Marauders of the X, and I know they're both X books, but here's the thing: they're fun.
That's my whole thing, man. Hickman's House of X, Powers of X were freaking outstanding, and now it's just I feel like he came on to do those 2 books, but Marvel's like, yeah, but now you have to set up, you have to do everything after it too, and so now the good ideas are gone.
Well, okay, so Hickman's to me is the writer that both I really admire and am pissed off by at the same time, because I know he's lazy. That's the other thing about him.
He's not lazy.
No.
The problem with Hickman isn't that he's lazy. The problem with Hickman is he's a long-term storyteller.
I'll give you. I'm going to throw 2 examples where I will disagree with you on. He's a long-term storyteller, and when he's on, it's brilliant. He has layers. What book was it? His Nick Fury book, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. His version of Secret Warriors. That's a fantastic book. I like that book a lot.
His entire when he was in charge of the Avengers run and did everything leading to Time Runs Out and through Secret Wars, it was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And then House of X, Powers of X were very good. Hell, first few issues of Dawn of X weren't bad. In the 4th issue, when they're at the World Summit and Magneto's eating dinner while everything, it was freaking brilliant. But now I'm getting to a point where I think that I don't know if it's that Jonathan Hickman's lazy so much as he's being, and this goes into the economic side of it, is he is being paid money to write a story that he doesn't care about.
Okay, so maybe let me reevaluate this. See, for me, this is the thing. I first read Jonathan Hickman with the Nightly News. I thought that was a really cool book.
Nightly News is great. My first read of his was Pax Romana.
Pax Romana, yeah. I enjoyed his runs up until he did one book where literally the ending was flowcharts. I was like, really? Right?
Pax Romana was less of a comic and more of like an alternate history.
No. I got it. It was like, okay, it's like, okay, that was interesting once. But I think for me it was Red Mask of Mars. He did the first 3 issues and they were phenomenal. And then I saw what he did for issue 4 as a cover, and I looked at it, it's like, okay, you cheated. And I heard in my head, it's like, you cheated here. You had to finish this story, but I think somewhere along the way you lost interest in this story. And that might be what...
Fair.
And that's... I think this is what my thing with him. When he's invested in a story, when he's really, really invested in a story, he is... Yeah. When he's really, truly invested in a story, he might be the best writer in comics, period. When he's truly and fully invested. However, if he loses even the slightest bit of interest in his story, the quality, it's almost, I guess, for me, I think the best, Manhattan Products.
As I said,
yeah,
that was the thing that's really killing me about his X books.
Yeah,
is because House of X, Powers of X was mind-blowingly good, and should have set up a renaissance of X-Men.
I think, and that's why I enjoy Marauders and Excalibur, because they're not tied to the main X books, and they actually are having fun with the concepts, which I think is actually really cool, right? But
like it it made me so upset, man, because they announced the giant-size X-Men specials and that Jonathan Hickman was going to be doing the Magneto one. And I was like, yes, Jonathan Hickman writing Magneto is always good. And then I read the Jonathan Hickman giant-size X-Men Magneto, and I was angry that I spent the $4 on the digital.
Oh,
I didn't, because I didn't have something to rip up and burn.
yeah. Again, when he's on, man, he's on. But when he has no interest in it, it's brutal. It's like,
And it sucks because it's like you have, all right, you don't have to tie this to anything. It can just be you writing a Magneto story and having fun with it.
yeah.
And Hickman writes villains probably better than anyone in the industry right now.
Yeah, no, he's always written great villains. Like I really, like, again,
His take on Doom was fantastic in Future Foundation.
any of them, any of them, like any villain he's touched, even Madam Hydra, I really like that. I dug like Madam Hydra in his early runs. His take on Doom and Fantastic Four is phenomenal. Like Magneto his first Magneto stuff was really good. He has a great grasp on what makes people tick. And when he's on, man, he's great. I really dig like when he's gone. But the thing with Hickman is, when I take a book of his now, any book, doesn't matter what it is, I give myself 4 issues, because if he loses interest in it, you'll know. It's like Manhattan Project was for me the one that did it. Nick Patera is a phenomenal talent, and it was a lot of fun to get his visuals when they were doing it. But there was, I think about halfway into the second year, you could just sense it. He just lost wherever he was going with it. He lost it, and
More than likely, no, and I'd agree with that. And I feel like that is something that plagues a lot of creatives in the industry. Where it's like you have this story that you want to tell, and you get very excited about it, and your first few issues are really good, and then you start to get to that point where you're out of your rising action. You're out of your rising action. You're in your rising action after your setting, and you're building up to your climax to go into falling action and get to your resolution. But you don't want to go through all of that. You just want to get to the end point. And so I feel like a lot of writers will end up shooting themselves in the foot. And that's a big thing with a lot of these modern big name writers, where it's like you have to give them, you can't judge any of these guys' runs until they have done like 3 or 4 issues. Because what generally ends up happening is they go and give like 100% for those first 2-3 issues, and then issue 4 or 5, it's a swan dive into Asshole. And you're just like, I freaking hate you.
I think
perfect example of this. Ta-Nehisi Coates' Captain America.
Yes.
2 or 3 issues were very good, and he had made this promise going into it that he wasn't going to over-inject his own politics into it. And so, he knew that people were going to be very critical of that going in. So those first 3 issues are pretty standard old-school Captain America fanfare, and they're really fun. And in issue 4, it takes a swan dive into Assholeville, and by issue 5, he had pissed off not only the audience, but Lionel Francis Yu. And so by issue 5, Lionel Francis Yu was on his way out, and I think he did 2 more issues after that, and both of them were his worst work that I've seen on any book. And then they brought in Andy Kubert for 2 issues, and Andy Kubert couldn't stand working with the dude. From what there's no way that you get offered to do Captain America and you only do 2 issues for it, and it was a mess.
Wait, I that was my last good Mark Ray one, was that those 6 issues he did with Captain America at the very end was actually they were fun. I really enjoyed it because it was a very old school. Captain America should be an old school character always, because he's that's who he is. And
Wade did that run right after Secret Empire.
Yes.
And the first few issues of that run were utterly fantastic.
Yes.
And then he took a left turn down Assholeville and made it about the political, how he's not happy about the political landscape in the least subtle way humanly possible. And I was just like,
I don't
Mark Wade, eat a dick.
Yes. Well, so like for me, I kind of look at. I also like this is actually okay. Two things. I look at like I'm doing an article for Anime Herald right now, and one of the things I'm looking at is the difference in how their creators do their runs over there by and large versus what we do here, right? And they, you know what, they do a lot. I mean, for all that you might say about the style and stuff like that, they actually do have some very incredible story fundamentals over there. We need to be
taking notes from Japan and anime and manga.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
The best books I've read in the past 5 or 6 years have been manga.
Yeah, my favorite
100%.
My favorite run from Japan is I'm a big sucker for the Full Metal Alchemist. Like that whole manga series is fantastic.
She needs to freaking get off her butt and finish her Arslan Senki reboot so that it can get animated and season 3 can come back.
Hey, listen, this is what. Look at it on the bright side, okay? You might get 2 animated series out of the deal, because what will end up happening is the studio over there will do. Yes, the one thing I like about over there, and again, I've been doing
they learned their lesson from Full Metal.
Yes.
Because Arslan got to season 2 and they were well ahead of where she was in the manga, so they've just been waiting for her to catch up.
Well, yeah, because although I actually did not mind the first Full Metal, I actually thought because it was an interesting, considering what they had, they did okay, right? Looking back at this is how I look at it. I loved how they paced the first series better than I actually liked how they paced the second series. But I loved the characters in the second series so much more. Armstrong
well, it's because Brotherhood actually followed.
Fully. Because they had the whole story to work with. They didn't the first time, so it was. Consequently, I'm actually going to see if I can pitch something to them, because they actually left a very interesting door open for a fun little one-shot movie there. But we'll see down the road.
It's just one of those things. Like the best things that I've read over the past few years are Berserk and Vinland Saga.
Vinland's awesome. Vinland's amazing. I love that book.
Both of them are utterly fantastic. Griffith is one of my favorite fictional characters in any medium.
Yeah.
And you know what? People always look at me sideways when I say that. They're like, "How could you like Griffith?" And I'm like, the fact that you are asking me that question is exactly why I love him.
Yeah.
That man has earned every single bit of hate he has gotten, and what I have done, I love looking at Griffith's character, because I feel like everybody hates him for what he did, but they refuse to acknowledge that the reason why they hate him so much is because up until that moment at the Advent, you were rooting for Griffith. Griffith was the good guy.
Well, yeah. But again, this is the thing. Like, you look at, okay, so over there, this is what I've noticed. We used to do this with Peanuts. We used to do this with Calvin and Hobbes. We would give one creator, one vision, one voice. And if it went for a very, very long time, we were invested in it simply because that person, we trusted that person, whoever did it, Charles Schultz or whoever, to carry out their vision all the way through. Right? Japan still does that. Here, right? And
that also goes into the whole thing that we just established.
Yeah.
We need to cut out this mentality of no third acts in comic books.
Yes.
It has actively been destroying our narratives for years. How many times are we going to get a repeat of Crisis?
Dear God, I hope never again. I know we're going to, but I hope never again. I don't ever want to read another Crisis story.
That's the whole thing, is that at the end of the day, all of these things are being recycled, and so we aren't getting new ideas. We aren't getting.
Yeah.
You know, was the thing that the DC title that I need to catch up on it that excited me the most about over the past few months was Deceased Dead Planet, because the concept of a new Justice League led by Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne as the inheritors of the mantles of Batman and Superman, and as a spiritual successor an epilogue to Super Sons was the most fantastic idea I had heard come from the DC camp in ages. And I even tweeted at Tom Taylor. I was like, I am throwing my money at you for that alone.
Tom Taylor's still doing it?
Yeah.
Oh God, Tom is my pick. Actually, he should do Superman. I'm going to actually go make that argument that he would do it better.
He would do a good Superman too.
Yeah, no, he would do. I think he would actually do it better. And I'm going to say this: he would do it better than Dini. Not because I don't think Dini wouldn't do a fantastic job. I think it's also because Tom has his own voice. My favorite Tom Taylor stuff. He was my when Marvel was very sad. I loved his Wolverine run. His Wolverine run was fun, and also his X-Men book was good, like really good. It was the first good X-Men book in, dear God, like ever, like in years, right? And it was like, wow, an X-Men book I can get behind. I haven't had one of these in like 10 years. Thank you, Tom Taylor. Right? And it was basically...
He's a really talented dude. And it's one of those things, man. It's upsetting to me because I feel like, you know, all these people are like scratching their heads about stuff, and it's like, oh, why aren't we doing well? It's because it's like, well, you've completely cut yourself off from your fan base, and this is another big problem. Is 3/4 of the people that made DC and Marvel what it is today were people that read those books growing up. Jeff Johns got noticed from a fan letter when he was 18 years old, and he was the person that put out the idea of Connor Kent's human half of the DNA being Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Okay? These are the people that go in and revolutionize and bring in these people who love these characters and have these great ideas and want to tell stories with them. They're the people that are going to create your good new characters. They're the people that are going to do all of this. And the industry has turned its back on it. Marvel used to have a thing where you could send in submissions for stories. I remember when I was a kid, there was a whole thing where you could send in ideas, and I'm sure that there were a good chunk of them that were absolute garbage. But every now and again, you strike lightning.
Well, you have to take chances. Like I mean, the one thing about this time going, like however it plays out going forward, we are going to have to start taking chances when we come out of this and new ways of doing things. And unfortunately, what tends to happen with, like, the comic book industry, as I know it, like in 5 years, I don't know if there's going to be a comic shop anymore, which makes me sad to say.
Probably not.
Yeah. Which makes me sad to say, but I mean that's where it's going.
It does genuinely suck. But I mean, like, if you think about it like this, DC is starting to learn a little bit, but I mean, Marvel still has how many titles coming out a month?
I have no idea. Like,
based off of their solicitations, you're looking at least 20, 30 books a week,
which is insane.
Right? That's ludicrous. You guys need to start, and it's really sad because this is the exact thing that almost got Stan Lee to quit comics.
Yeah.
He was working in comics in the 50s. Marvel wasn't putting out any super books anymore because of the lawsuit with from the parents groups that was based around the German psychologist's Seduction of the Innocents book. And Marvel was pumping out these pulp horror and romance. The company that was Marvel was pumping out these pulp horror and romance books and was going for quantity over quality, and it was tiring Stan Lee out. He was just sick of it, and so he almost quit. And that's when Joan gave him the advice to write a book his own way, and that's when the Fantastic Four happened. Teamed up with Kirby and did that. And that's how Marvel became the company it is. And now it's doing the exact same thing that almost got one of the greatest personalities in comics to leave.
we are due for what I feel is a creative collapse, but also a creative renaissance. Because when things changed, but when
the creative renaissance is already here.
Oh no, absolutely no.
Creative renaissance is the indie scene.
No, absolutely no. Jeff Pena's doing amazing stuff. I love Ramil Heel. He's doing amazing stuff. I love I've been reviewing for First Comics News for a while, and I've just had this. I'm amazed at some of the stuff that's going out there. They're way more sophisticated than what you're seeing from.
You look at the all that needs to be seen is look at how much crowdfunding projects have made.
Oh yeah.
When Diamond shut down everything and then everyone went pencils down, people started actually looking at indie books. Like, you can think whatever you want about EVS, but the man made $1 million off of one comic.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And the demand's there.
That's all that needs to be said. But then you look at, I did my first crowdfunding campaign in March, and I launched in March. We finished close to June. I think it was May 30th was when we finished. $8,829 on my first book.
Yeah. No.
People are starting to notice that indie doesn't mean that you're some talentless guy that couldn't get into the mainstream. It was the mainstream hasn't had its doors open to the people who give a shit in years, and so those people took their talents and went on their own.
Made themselves, which is where it's all going. I'm going to be doing for my second novel this year. I'm releasing. I'm going to be doing my first Kickstarter with that second novel because to me it's like it makes sense. I'm looking at my future, and even now, like I'm a hybrid author. I'm only looking at traditional publishing in this regard right now is if it's offering me something I can't get on my own. At this point, that's literally what I'm required. Like, what do you offer me?
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's one of these things, man. When it comes down to the comic book industry, the mainline people see it whether they want to admit it or not, because you already have big names in the mainline jumping ship to indie.
Oh yeah.
And jumping ship to self-publishing. Freaking Sean Gordon Murphy jumped to Indiegogo and ran a campaign within the first day at almost $300,000. Freaking Scott Snyder went to Kickstarter with.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on who he brought to do his art, but he brought a big name to do his art on that book, and they're at $250,000. And then you look at these CG people like EVS, John Malin, and they're like. EVS is guaranteed from this point on to pretty much hit $1 million of every book that he does. Because once you do it once, you're going to do it again.
Unless you cheat your fan base, and that's the only way you'll lose at this point. As long as he's consistent, he'll make it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And John Malin and these other guys that are in that are big in that side of things, you're guaranteed $100K. That's better than any of the top 8 mainline books have made in the past 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
The best of those books, the best selling books from the mainline industry have been struggling to pass 80, let alone freaking 100.
Yeah, no, and that's it. Like you gotta look at the reality here. It's like, and this is the reality, like strictly as a businessman. Okay, I was published my first 3 books, but the reason I'm doing these things on my own right now. I have a bigger platform than my publisher, and I created it on my own. So why do I need you? And I'm not saying that like it is a terrible thing because I appreciate.
And you're not trying to be a jerk about it.
Yeah, but at
the end of the day, there is a business side to all of this.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean,
you can't ignore it.
No, and not if you want, not if you're serious about this. Like if you you gotta treat this. I've been saying this like as a creative, the biggest challenge I've had because I've gone I've quit my job. I went freelancing. I've been doing it for 6 months. I'm going to keep going for another 6 months, and we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to for me is if I can make a living on my own, great. I'm never going to go back because it had to come. It had to come out again. There has to be a reason for me to go somewhere else if I'm doing it on my own. And also, it gives me more leverage. So when I'm doing it with people, let's say I do want to get published for a big 5 company, or I can do something with DC or Marvel. What are you giving me that I'm not doing on my own? And
that's the other thing. They're not going to give you shit.
Yeah. So if they don't give me anything, I won't. I don't need them.
Like, you're lucky. So if you're a big name like Frank Miller, Scott Snyder, any of that, you might get 5 to 10% off of sales, but then you're getting paid a page rate that's probably jack shit.
Yep.
Like I was looking up mainline page rates, and for bigger names in the mainline, you're looking at maybe like 200 to 300 a page, which over several issues adds up. But it's still, that's shit money. You're freaking living off of pennies, and then your royalty rates are so low. Who gives a shit? Like, as I said, Scott Snyder ran a freaking campaign on Kickstarter, made over 200,000 in a day. Keanu Reeves teamed up with Boom Studios.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was badass.
They're almost at 2 million now.
Yeah, no.
So it's like, granted, they wrapped up their campaign, so they wrapped up close to 2 million. So it's like, what's the point? What's the point in working with DC and Marvel? There is none. Do you want a movie deal? Okay. That's about it.
But again,
you're not going to get shit from that movie deal either, because the movie industry, that you get even less money from them as a creative than you do at Marvel and DC.
Yeah, no, so I mean that's the thing, right? That's how you gotta look at it. Like, if I'm gonna build myself up, like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is just strictly on a business level. And if you don't offer me what I feel like, if I'm making X and you're only offering me Y, see ya, because I don't care.
Right? And like that's one of those things is that, you know, I have a lot of friends that have seen my book, and they're like, man, when you're doing like the animated series or this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, look, man, I'm just focusing on making good books. I'm not going to be an idiot if someone like Netflix or what have you somehow manages to see a copy of Elysium Fields, like, we want to make that and do a show. I'm not going to be an asshole and say no. But at the same time, that's not my focus, because at the end of the day, what I'm going to get from Netflix for turning that into a TV show is going to be pennies in comparison to what I could potentially build by getting an actual audience that likes my book.
Well, yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, you have to build your, like, as a creator. Like, don't get me wrong, prestige is nice. I love prestige. Hey, I have an award. Cool, I got one. Great. You know what I want to do with it? Make money with it. And then, not to be like a greedy asshole, but the truth is, like, I'm in the
you
business.
Gotta eat.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like, I've got a 2 almost 3-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I'm not like I work. I have a job I do outside of this, and like, I have financial goals that I'm going to need to hit for each and every campaign. If I don't hit it, I'm not going to be able to continue doing it. And that's not me trying to like guilt trip anyone, or it's just this
business.
Is a business.
It's business.
I'm not going to continue to it's a considerable financial investment. I'm not going to continue to do that and potentially put my son in jeopardy just because I want to make a pretty book.
Yeah.
I would love to keep making these, but at the end of the day, the ends have to justify the means.
Yeah. I mean, and it's possible. Like, you can make a living doing this. You just have to have a model. Like for me, I'm doing novels right now primarily. I'm going to start my own, like, how to draw a comic, whether it's good, bad, and different. I'm just going to do it to see how far I go with it, right? That's my goal right now. I have my first issue. I
hope you have a different name than that.
No. It's actually called. I'll give you the title. Zippy the Dragon. It's actually about a little dragon that makes fun of me for drawing him so poorly. That's actually the whole premise. That's the whole premise.
I was just about to say. I was like, I really hope that you have a different.
No. But again, when it starts because I am such a terrible, terrible penciler. I'm going to use my storytelling to get to that point where I start drawing. But I digress. The point is, I have goals, and everything I'm doing is trying to build my audience. Because the more audience I have, the more people will see my work, the more I'm hoping people will invest in me. That's the goal. Regardless of what happens in the next year or so, that's my goal. Because I don't want to just keep like doing a day job. I want to do it. I have the freedom to do what I want right now. So that's what I'm doing. Now, maybe next year it doesn't work out. I go back to school. Maybe next year it doesn't work out. I get another job. I start, and I rebuild and redo it again. But whatever the case may be, I'm in the business at this point. I think my work is worth something, and every creative should have that. Every one of us.
And that's the big. Like, that's why I'm in it. Is we did very well on that zero issue, and I think that we do have a good story to tell here. If we continue to have that kind of success, I already have 2 other series that one of them the script's done, the other one I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and then I have a third project that I'm kind of brainstorming right now as well. So it's one of those things where I'd love to keep doing this, and that's one of those big things. Is like, again, it goes into that business side.
Yeah, and that's
able to figure out how to get to that next step. I think that one of the big things for me will be setting aside money to go to a convention next year when they open.
Yeah,
because I think that's a big piece that I am missing, is getting that one-on-one interaction with people.
You're cool. You're a cool dude. Waxing comics with your audience. I think you'll have a blast. The one cool thing about conventions, they are very passionate people and fans, and you can have fun, right? You can have fun, and even though again, if the first little bit will be a bit of an investment, once you really get rolling, you'll be good. You'll be really good, I think. So, Mr. Michael, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
I think that we've been going for almost 2 hours, so I'd hope so.
Yes. Yes.
We didn't really get a chance to talk much about my book.
But we can do that right now. That's actually what I'm about to get to. So what we're gonna what we're gonna do is, I want you to talk about what your book's about, where people can find it, how people can find you. Basically, why is it awesome and made of cheese, my friend, or possibly not made of cheese?
So, Elysium Fields. Oh man, so Elysium Fields is a concept that has kind of stuck with me since I was a kid. Growing up, my dad would read me the Iliad as my bedtime story. And so, being the weird child that I was, I grew up with other weird kids that also liked mythology as much as me. And while we did have the occasional debates on, like, Star Trek over Star Wars, Superman over Batman, stuff like that, we'd also throw in our favorite mythological heroes and talk about which one of those we think would win in a fight. And so that led to Elysium Fields. And so this is a copy of our Holofoil Zero issue. And so the whole premise of Elysium Fields is that every 1,000 years in the underworld there's a tournament called the Abyssal Tournament of Champions. The way that the tournament works is every culture in the world has a respective god of death or god of the underworld. And what these gods do is they assemble a team of heroic champions from their respective cultures to fight on their behalf in this arena. And the winner of this tournament becomes the next Lord of the Underworld for the upcoming millennium. And so Elysium Fields starts with the death of one of the most iconic heroes in the entire global mythology, Achilles. And so Achilles dies. He goes down and is met in his piece, and is then taken from that piece to go into this arena and fight on the behalf of Hades alongside Theseus and Hades. And so that's where we pick up in Pyramid Gambit. The Zero issue kind of sets the stage for it. It's effectively the prologue. And so we get into the Pyramid Gambit, and Achilles is proving his mettle that he can hang with it in this tournament. And then we go into this first round where he's fighting alongside these other great Greek mythic heroes. And the first round, they're going up against the champion of Osiris, the Egyptian Lord of the Dead, and that champion Imhotep has never been defeated before in the arena. And so that's where Pyramid Gambit is at, and it's just the beginning. Like,
so
this story is ongoing, and we have a lot planned.
So here's my question before we go into the full pitch. Like this sounds really cool. It's like Mortal Kombat meets mythology. It's kind of what it feels. That's kind of what it feels like, which is cool. I think it's a really neat idea. Why would Achilles work for Hades?
Huh?
Why would Achilles and Hades work together? I'm just curious about that.
Like you have to. So the big thing that ends up happening is that Hades makes an oath on the river Styx that should they win the tournament, he will give Achilles his greatest desire.
Okay.
And so Achilles has this ongoing theme throughout the book. That's actually distributed. I had a black and white cut of the zero issue, and Von Randall, who's a very talented artist from the Philippines, did it for me and had the imagery in it. But the theme of Achilles' story is the conflict between the person that we want to be versus the person we've always been. Achilles, the version that we see in this, is this version that we see kind of in the Odyssey, who is not really jazzed about the glory and everything. He's kind of over it, and he wishes that he had actually had that chance in life to live life and be with the people that he loves. And so Hades gives him this promise, and it's kind of that's the thing that Achilles wants. And so that's what he's aiming to go. But as he's going through this tournament, he's fighting these people of skill and renown that he's never had to go up against. Because when you look at the things in the Iliad, the stories of the Iliad and post-Homerica and everything, there's no real equal of Achilles on the battlefield. That guy was a monstrosity. So he's going up against people that are actually challenging. And this starts to rear the ugly head of the Hound of Glory. And so now you have this conflict that arises in, so that by the end of this story, the question is going to be, what is Achilles going to choose? What is the thing that he desires? Is it going to be that second chance of life with Patroclus, what that he sought after at the beginning, or is he going to stay in this tournament forever and just keep fighting?
That's interesting. You have a lot of ways you could go with that. There's the sports analogy what it takes to be a champion. When you go against like it's the first time he'll be shit on, because to go against someone that can take his best shot and keep coming, right? Which is that's hard.
The thing that we actively play with. So like this is going like very purely off of the mythology. So this is in life. Achilles was invulnerable, right? He could only be his only vulnerability was his heel, and so in death, he's already shed his mortal body. That's not something he has anymore. And so in Pyramid Gambit, he actually gets wounded for the first time ever.
Because that would be.
Fucks with him.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely it would, because you're this invincible guy, and you meet someone that not only can take your best shot but can hurt you. What are you made of in that moment? That's actually that's really powerful. Actually, I think there's a lot of interesting. Wow. So I have my own like mythology story right now. I had Alice in Wonderland and Greek mythology. I mashed them together. Alice is Pandora. She opens.
That sounds awesome.
No, it is. I'll show you it when it's over. No, it's fantastic. She opens the box. The Kingdom of Wonderland scatters across the multiverse, and inside her head now is a certain Cheshire friend, and that it is.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. It's, no. That's what I'm doing. So, the first book is called Alice Zero. It's a true epic poem with some illustrations. So the next book is Alice 1 WON under question mark. It's Alice chasing the Queen of Hearts in the labyrinth, the Minoan labyrinth.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, I'm having that. That's and yeah. So I'm having a blast writing it. So and that is more like what a Wonderland. It's more close to an actual Wonderland story in terms of there's prose and poetry. But the first one's just an epic poem about Alice recovering. What happened after Alice opened the box? That's basically what
So speaking of the Minoan labyrinth, we actually have Theseus in the book, and so the thing that we did, Theseus's design just turned out so cool, and it went way over the top of what I was expecting. And I actually created some lore behind his armor. But the big thing that I really wanted him to do is his main weapon is a combination of the Aegeus sword, which was his father's sword that he used to kill the Minotaur, and the golden thread that got him through the labyrinth. So he effectively kind of uses that like Scorpion, where he'll throw the sword and then yank it back, and then yank people back using the golden thread. And so there's our version of Theseus right there.
That's badass. I wish people can see this. I actually might when we do the picture thing at the end, I might actually request you sign something like that. But that's cool. No, man.
He's on the cover of the main, and you see him, I think, using the thread to like choke somebody out.
Nice. No, me. Oh wow, it sounds like, dude, you have a really cool concept. So I'll definitely check it out. Okay, so let's do the formal pitch now. Like, we're gonna wrap this up because we've gone. Dude, I think I could talk comics with you forever. I think me and you would have a really fun. We could literally go for days. I know we could.
We'll have to set up another time for me to come on and just actually talk.
Actually, so here's the thing about my show. People get a sense of who you are on my show, right? More so than we talk about the actual product. I think you're passionate, and just straight up, you're passionate. You care about your work. Honestly, just listening to some of the things on how you construct and reconstruct stories. I hope you want to talk about some of the other things you're doing too, because you sound like we barely scratched the surface here, and that's cool. I don't mind that. That means I want to bring you back at some point down the road, and that's totally what I want to do. But I enjoyed this talk. I really did. This was fun, and I think, and sometimes those are the best kind of interviews in their own right too. So, right?
Absolutely.
So, how about this? Do the formal pitch where people can find your book and where people can find you, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, that sounds good. Give me just a second. I'm gonna pull up one thing because I have ADD. So the way that I do my pitches is I have it all kind of pre-written, so that way I don't screw it up.
No worries.
Jesus. Laptop, stop. Anyways,
go for it.
No, we have the pitch. The Abyssal Tournament of Champions has begun. Achilles has proven himself worthy of his place through his clash with the first hero, Gilgamesh. However, Achilles' return to peace has been stalled, as Hades makes an offer he just can't refuse. He now joins the ranks of the champions of Hades alongside Theseus, slayer of the Minotaur, and Heracles, the mighty hero who conquered the 12 labors. Together they will fight to win this tournament, and their next opponent is a foe that is yet to be defeated in the arena, the champion of the Lord of the Dead, Osiris. The Egyptian Lord of the Dead, Osiris. Victory is the only way forward, and the stakes are higher than any of the heroes realize. Welcome to the Pyramid Game.
Awesome. And where can people find it?
And you can find the book on Indiegogo. We are 100% funded. We are 148% funded at just shy of 3,000. But we want you guys to come in and keep helping us get forward. We made an announcement for a statue tier for if we hit 15. We have 8 days left in the first 30-day window. We have a whole bunch of special things that you can get a hold of if you get in those first 30 days. So please come check us out.
Awesome. Give me one quick second here. And we are... Let me help you tell your story the way you want it told. If you're in the genres of science fiction, fantasy, thriller, historical, or young adult, I have services that can definitely help you. I can produce, narrate, and master said audiobook so it's ready for Amazon and any other software you need. For more information, see my website at jpantelleresco.wordpress.com/audiobook-services. You worked hard to create that story, and I'll work just as hard to make sure it's told in the right way. And that was my conversation with Michael Oden, ladies and gentlemen. Michael was a great chat. Man, we'd still be going at it, I think, in the perfect world. Very passionate dude, cares about the craft of comics, is a fan of comics, and he puts together a pretty good book in Elysium Fields. I actually reviewed it for firstcomics.com. You can read it. Now I do a regular review. I gotta do another review this week at some point. But yeah, this is Michael's a really good dude, and when the new show, when they go to the talk show, I'll be definitely talking to him to come back maybe in January, February next year. As is, I've already booked my first month, and we'll talk about that a little bit down the road. But yeah, we are counting down to the end of an era. So, Michael, thank you very much for coming on my show. Feel free to come back anytime you'd like. We'll definitely do this again. So, this week is the last week of the show. I'm a little behind on episodes, as you can see. I had some family come by, and some family business came up during the weekend, so I've been a little bit busy on that. I've still been doing streams. Check out my YouTube channel right now. I got like some amazing streams up there. Elsa Carragaza, from animator for Warner Brothers, animation director for Warner Brothers, I should say, that was incredible. I got that opportunity. Kurt Zauer, Chuck Pinot. Chuck might be my favorite conversation this year, maybe. If for nothing else, the look on his face when he found out I was a metal fan. It's like, oh, you're a metal fan. And then I told him some of the bands. I was like, oh, shit, you really are a metal fan. It's kind of fun to actually do that to people. But I just want to say, everybody, thanks for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. Sorry this was so late. 447 is going to come like that. So the same 448, 49, and finally 450. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Audible, YouTube channel, Josh Pantelleresco. My books, Alice Zero and Cloud Tower, are available on Amazon right now. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at jpantelleresco. Stay inspired, keep surfing the chaos, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Alright? Take care of yourselves.
Josh.